Hello, hello, my friends. We are here for weekly or every other week live Q&A, and we've got a lot to cover today. If you are not familiar with who I am or where you have landed on the interwebs, I am Sabrina Gebhardt. I'm a lifestyle, family, and newborn photographer of more than 10 years, and I'm an educator. I have a course, The Organized Photographer. I do a mastermind, I do mentoring, and I get on here 2 to 4 times a month and do live Q&A, and it's so super fun. So buckle up and get ready for all of the information. So if you're wondering where these questions come from, if you are new around here, I share a question box on Wednesday, and these are people that have just asked questions. So some people I know, some people I don't know, they ask questions and then we just answer them. So it's always a hot mess, mixed bag of information, and it's always really, really fun. This is going to be action-packed an action-packed Q&A. So let me tell you where we're going, just so you know kind of what to expect. If you hear any of these that spark interest, right, you'll stick around. So this is where we're going today. So we are talking about somebody is struggling with paying themselves a salary or an income, how to do that, some top SEO tips for your business, how to quote a commercial job. If you are catching this on the replay, I'm glad you're here. Feel free to send me a DM or drop comments under this with questions, because I can still get them and I still want to help and answer to give you clarification or further information. So don't be shy, feel free. So first question, what it said was, I'm struggling with how to pay myself. That was it. There wasn't a whole lot of detail. So if you are the one that asked that question and you're here, maybe talk to me in the comments a little bit more and give me a little bit more detail. There's 2 ways that I interpreted that, so I'm going to speak to both of those different situations. Number 1, I interpreted that maybe it's the physical how. How do I pay myself when I'm running my own business? So here's the thing. As long as you have a business checking account that your money is going into, right? Most of us accept digital payments. So PayPal or Stripe or Square or something like that, right? And that's fine. That's a great holding place for money to come in. It's super easy. I want you to have a business checking account that is linked to those digital payment accounts that money goes into, okay? So I am a Chase banker, okay? So I have my business checking account is through Chase. So my Stripe funds and my PayPal funds get transferred into my business checking account. That is where I pay my business expenses and my taxes and sales tax and all of those things. I pay my assistant and whatnot through that account. Now, when I pay myself, the physical how of doing that is literally just an every other week transfer from my business to my personal, okay? So there are 2 ways that you can do that. If you have been in business, or you have a long enough, or you have a nice enough nest egg that you can set up like an auto withdrawal situation, you can totally do that. You can totally pay yourself automatically a certain amount, just like any other job would, but you have to have a nest egg to start with, right? Because the amount of money we make per month it fluctuates, okay? So if you don't have a nest egg, then you're just going to make sure that your expenses are covered, and you're going to take out the balance on an every other week or an every week basis. And so it's just a manual transfer. Put a little note in your calendar and you transfer that. So here's the thing. What I think is really happening with that question, and again, the question was struggling with paying myself. So you could have interpreted it with either the physical how, which is what I just talked about, it's transferring from one business account into a personal account, okay? The other thing is, maybe this person is asking, how do they have enough money to pay themselves? That's what I'm reading between the lines. That may or may not be true. Again, I don't know if this person's here and I don't have any clarification, but I'm going to speak to that. If you're finding yourself never having enough money to pay yourself, right? Say you're getting those digital payments through Stripe and through PayPal, and you are having them transferred into your business checking account. You're doing all those things, but there's constantly stuff getting taken out of that business account, right? It's the cost for your CRM and studio rentals and sales tax and, right? There's a million business expenses. if this is you and every month or every other week you're finding yourself never having any money left over in there to pay yourself, you need to raise your prices and you need to reevaluate your pricing structure, okay? So pricing 101, and it never ceases to amaze me how many people don't know this. Your pricing, the rates that you charge people, is a mathematical formula. This is not based on what she's doing over here and what I'm doing over here and what your other competitor's doing over here. Literally has nothing to do with what your competitors and neighbors are doing. Your pricing structure, if you want to be a successful and profitable business, should be based on your expenses. Simple math, okay? You have a certain amount of expenses that come out of your account every month, every year. And one of those expenses, and this is where so many people get it wrong, one of those expenses is your paycheck, okay? If you have not added a line item to your expense list that includes your own paycheck, you have not calculated your pricing right, and you're right, you're never gonna have enough money to pay yourself, okay? So if that is the way that this question was asked, if it was asked in a sense of, I never have enough money to pay myself, how do I actually do that? You need to reevaluate your pricing, and likely there's going to be a fairly significant price increase because you should absolutely be making money every single month, okay? So there was 2 ways I read into that. I answered them both. If you are just now popping in, you can catch it at the beginning, okay? In the replay. So second question, top tips for helping SEO gain Google visibility, okay? So let me pause. I am not an SEO expert. No, ma'am. I am not an SEO expert. I can just tell you what I do and what I know and what I've learned from other people, but do not take this advice in lieu of reaching out to an SEO expert, okay? But I have 4 tips and 1 little side note, okay? So these are things that you can do to boost your SEO on your website that you need to be doing, okay? The first thing is you need to get your Google My Business set up, okay? Google My Business is something that Google, obviously, has set up. And let me tell you, first of all, it is very clunky, okay? Hey, Sarah. Google My Business is very clunky, but it is attached to Google. And if you have an active Google My Business page, that drives your SEO for your website. So you absolutely want to have this. Google My Business is totally free. Sarah reminded me earlier, we were chatting about this, that there is, when you first sign up with Google My Business, there is a little bit of a lead time that goes because they will send you an actual postcard in the mail to verify your business and your address, okay? So, hey, Sarah. Okay, so we do have an SEO expert in the house now. Sarah's here, but Sarah, I'm going over one of the questions this week was some top SEO tips. So I'm telling them what I know, but everybody that's here, if you need to reach out to a real expert, Sarah Landa's the one to reach out to. Okay, so get your Google My Business set up. It's free. There is a little bit of lead time because they make you verify your address and your business, so they will mail you an actual postcard. And it's kind of funny because it does look like junk mail. Like it comes in the mail and you almost want to throw it away and you're like, wait a minute, I was expecting something from Google. And it'll have like a verification code that you have to then take that code and go back and enter it into Google My Business, and then you're up and running. If I remember correctly, it's like a week. It's not very long, but it's not instantaneous, okay? So go to Google My Business, get everything set up, and then wait for your verification code. Once you get that, you're up and running. Here's the deal. Google My Business is very clunky. It's weird, but it works. So there are ways that you can add images to your Google My Business profile. You can add your business logo, all of your contact information. You can also share blog posts over to it. And the key, the big thing that I want you to do is that is where you will get your review form for Google reviews. So when you set up your Google My Business, there will be a little link that's like share your review form. You're gonna take that, and every time you send out a gallery to clients or a thank you email to clients, you are going to be sending them the link to your review. And you're gonna quite frankly, you're gonna just be truthful and honest. Google reviews mean so much to my small business. Would you please take a moment to fill this out here and hyperlink them to the Google review form? those reviews, again, they're attached to Google. They help drive your SEO. So those are the first two things to pick up your SEO. Get Google My Business set up and start sharing your review form. The third thing is that you want to have your website optimized with site words and location. Okay. Again, you're going to want to reach out to Sarah Landa because I don't have all the information on that, but the basics, if you don't have your location on your website, like the very specific counties and or cities that you serve, do that first. Because if you're missing that, people land on your website and they're like, I don't know where the heck this person is. They have beautiful images, but I don't know if I can hire them. You have to have your location, and you want to have keywords. If you are for example, I am a newborn photographer in Fort Worth, Texas. So Fort Worth newborn photographer is all over my website. Okay. Another tip within that is whenever you are sharing images on your website, whether it be in your portfolio page or your home page or blog posts, name those images with keywords, okay? So instead of it just being like random image number, blah, 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 right? Like very specifically rename those images with keywords, okay? And number 4, a quick tip for like driving SEO and Google visibility is blog. You need to blog on a consistent basis. I know you don't want to hear that because blogging takes a lot of time, but that's the answer, okay? Blogging and using actual posts that people will want to read, okay? So again, I talk about this almost every single time. You need to be writing to your ideal client. So you need to think of putting yourself in your ideal client's shoes and then write about that, okay? So if my clients are new moms or expecting moms in the Fort Worth, Texas area, what do they want to know about? Where can they buy the favorite nursery stuff? What are some favorite local brands? What hospitals could they deliver at? What are night nurse experiences that they could hire? What are some fun baby shower locations in the area? Like that kind of stuff. That's what you're going to want to write about. You're going to want to write about things that your ideal client actually want to read about, okay? So here's the thing about SEO. It is unfortunately a long game. You can do all of those things today. You could get your Google My Business set up. You could make sure that your site's got keywords on it and locations, and your images have, keywords renamed into them, and you could write some blog posts. You're not going to see results today. I'm so sorry. It stinks, and I really wish you did. But SEO is a long game. So you're going to do all this work today, and you're going to do it again tomorrow, and you're going to do it again next week, and you're going to do it again the week after. You are going to work on SEO all the time, and it is a snowball, okay? So it's going to feel really slow at first, like painstakingly slow, but once you get moving, you are moving. Okay, so just keep going, keep doing the things. Okay, so those are the first 2 questions. If you just popped in, we covered how to pay yourself and then some SEO tips. Again, I am not an SEO expert. Sarah Landa's here. She is. Reach out to her. She's fantastic. Now, number 3, how to quote a commercial job. Okay, so I am going to, again, just like with the SEO, I want to preface this with, I am not an expert at this, okay? The amount of commercial work I do is very small and very special circumstances. So if you have access to somebody who does this a lot, you might want to reach out to them. But from what I know and from my own experiences, here's some thoughts that I want you to have when you're doing those prices. Number 1, you need to consider all of the extra expenses you're going to have from this commercial job, okay? And those have to be built in. So are you renting a studio space? Are you renting a home to shoot in or any kind of location? Are you renting any additional gear for this session, a special lens or some tripods or whatever? Are you going to have a second shooter? Is there going to be a creative director that you need to bring on to hire? You have to think about all of your extra expenses because big commercial jobs are not regular jobs. Okay, there's a lot of hands on deck. There's a lot of other things. So consider all of the expenses. That might mean that you need to have a conversation with the people that want to hire you to make sure that you're on the same page. If they reach out to you and they're like, hey, are you available for 5 hours on this particular day to do a commercial shoot for us? Pause. You need to know what that entails. What is their vision? What is the location? How many images are they wanting to get out of it? What is their end game? What are they going to do with these images? You need to really know the whole picture before you can accurately send a proposal for this job. So, number one, you want to consider all of the expenses that you will have, and all of those things either need to be added in as line items on the proposal, or you can build them into your hourly rate. So, number two, commercial jobs have licensing involved, right? But I want you to stop and think about the end game of the licensing. Do they want to put a billboard up in your area? Is this to go in nationally published magazines? Or is this for social media? Like, what is the end game of the images? That is going to affect how much you're going to charge them for licensing. Okay, it is one thing to shoot the session, it's a whole other thing for licensing. Now, for an example, again, I am not a huge commercial shooter, but if some of the commercial jobs I do are for very small businesses, all of their images are for social media or for like branding magazines that go out at trade shows. Very, very small scale. I build in a tiny little licensing fee into my hourly rate, and that's it. I know these aren't going on billboards. I know they're not going in national magazines. I know they're not going on TV, okay? It's different. However, if the Gap reaches out to me, I'm available, Gap. If the Gap reaches out to me and wants me to do a commercial lifestyle shoot with kids for their fall line of 2022, you better believe that licensing fee is gonna be totally different because their end game is totally different, okay? So keep that in mind. Like, how big is this company? What is the end game with the licensing? Another thing you need to ask yourself when bidding a commercial job is, how many hours are you expected to shoot? Okay. And if they don't know that, you need to have a conversation about what types of images, maybe what the shot list is, so that you can start to gauge what the time is. Okay. Because if this is going to be a quick product shoot with maybe one model and it's an adult model, so you're not chasing a kid and it's jewelry or whatever, that level of shoot is totally different than shooting an entire spring line where there's 75 models coming and they've rented out this amazing warehouse, right? Like, can you see the amount of time difference? So you need to know the amount of time you're going to be there so that you can accurately give them an hourly rate that makes sense. It might make sense to just give them a day rate instead of an hourly rate. Instead of breaking it down, you know, you're going to charge them $4,000 and they can have you all day long. Okay, so consider how long you're going to be there. You also need to, again, you need to get clarification on what the end game is. How many images do they need? What types of images do they need? What turnaround do they need? Do they need it rushed? Because sometimes commercial stuff is really, really rushed and they're really, really needy. How in depth of editing do they expect? Do they want the same level of quality in images and editing that you're already providing that they see on your website? Or is it going to be leveled up? So you need to keep all those things in mind. And then at the end of the day, I want you to ask yourself, how bad do you want the job? Okay. If this is something where you're like, I have time and I could do it, but I'm not super psyched about it, and it's not really going to get me any ideal clients, and I don't really want to get into commercial photography anyway, you could price it kind of high and make them, if they want to hire you, they've got to pay for you, right? Make it worth your time. But if this is a really on-brand business, okay? Say you're a family photographer, and again, this is the Gap or whatever, and you're like, this is gonna be an incredible experience. I get to shoot the way I normally get to shoot. I'm really excited about it. I want to break into commercial photography, and so this would be a great start. Then you might underbid a little bit so that you can win them, okay? All of that to say, I didn't give you any hard, firm numbers on how to price commercial work. I gave you things to consider. At the end of the day, commercial work is hourly based, okay? But again, you need to have that conversation so you know what their expectations are. And then there are a lot of line items. Businesses want to see exactly what they're paying for. They want to know the studio rental fee, the second shooter fee, the editing fee, the licensing fee, the hourly photographer's rate. So you're going to break it all down like that, okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as to what to consider when you are pricing a commercial job, okay? So hi to everybody that's just now joining. We've been going for about 20 minutes already. We have covered how to pay yourself, some SEO tips, and how to price commercial jobs. These questions always come from you guys. I share question boxes on Wednesday and people drop questions and we just cover all the stuff and it's super fun. So if you found this valuable, would you please share it to your Instagram stories and tag me? I would love to hear that it was valuable to you, and I would love your support.